Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's a nice quiet week, not a lot of meetings, but Brotherhood members, don't forget you do have a meeting. No sound?
Yep. There is some.
Huh, okay. Just as a reminder, even though the governor has indicated we will no longer need to wear masks effective next week, that does not apply in LA County. LA County is keeping the mask mandate, and we are in LA County, so that means please continue to wear your mask when you are in the building. Also, please, when you come into the building, keep the foyer clear, so that our security people are able to have a line of sight from one to the other. So when you come in, if you want to congregate and chat, please go ahead and go into the social hall. You will note that the back doors are open. Those are for safety reasons. Through the doors, there's an emergency exit to the Santa Gertrudis exits, as well as the doors there behind Ray are also our emergency exits. As always, we thank the staff, Cantor Ken, Rabbi Mark, and Ray Irwin, and of course our techies, Bill Carey, Chris Jastroff, and David Youngman. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and Rabbi will be right back.
What about my slides? I'm not seeing slides.
Sorry about that. A little technical conflab there with our confabulating technical folks. Thank you, one and all. I think we are doing just fine.
Is that English?
Aramaic. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a pleasure to have everyone with us this evening, both those here in person, those joining us on our YouTube video streaming as well. Shabbat Shalom to you all. I would invite those of you who are joining us from home to perhaps set out a glass of Kiddush juice or wine or other favorite beverage that you might like to have to welcome Shabbat, as well as some candles. We will share in those blessings together as part of our service this evening. As we have a chance to welcome this Shabbat, it is truly a great opportunity for us to take a moment and to pause, to reflect on the week that was, to prepare ourselves for the week that will be. It is hard for us as modern human beings to not try to anticipate what is coming next. We have lived so much of our lives with previews of coming attractions, with hints as to what's going to take place in the next episode. And so it is all the more difficult for us just to simply live in the moment, which is what Shabbat asks us to do. We also bring Shabbat greetings from Rita and Bob Rubin, Jeff and Wilma Shear, Ellie Ursus, and Joyce Kessler. Thank you all very much for your ongoing support of our Shabbat greetings. I wish to acknowledge that Rita and her daughter Sue are here with us. Ellie is here with us as well. Jeff is both a past president of our congregation and a member of our temple board. And a message, a shout out from our sisterhood to Marcia Bronstein. She and her husband Les will be moving north in the coming weeks or months. And so a message from our sisterhood. Marcia, no matter how far we are from each other, we will always be sisters' best wishes for the next part of your journey. Until we see you again, love sisterhood. Again, we don't like to say bye in Judaism. In Hebrew, the word is lehitraot, the same as au revoir, the same as the English see you later, because we know our paths will cross yet again. May the rest and quiet of this hour of worship refresh our inner life and renew in us the sense of holiness. Fill our hearts with Shabbat peace and serenity, that we may hear the voice of our innermost soul and be moved to build our lives on the abiding foundations of all that is holy. That is what Shabbat must be for us, not to tear the world apart, not to wrestle with time, but rather to let warmth and care and light come forth from deep within ourselves. We welcome this Shabbat with the singing of Lecha Dodi. The mystics envisioned Shabbat not as a date, not as a Friday evening, but perhaps kind of a date with God, with God's presence, that we would set aside 1/7 of our life so that we might focus on the spiritual instead of on the physical, where we might focus on our interactions with each other, our relationships with our family, our friends, our relationship with nature around us. And so the mystics in northern Israel envisioned Shabbat as a presence, indeed a bride. Boi kala, come, let us greet the bride, the Sabbath bride, which is what we greet with the words of Lecha Dodi. There will be a part in this song, this prayer, this expression of hope and gratitude, where we will be invited to rise and face the rear of our sanctuary. Although Shabbat needs no doorway to enter, we turn and face the rear of the sanctuary as if a new presence was coming into our midst. It is the Shabbat, Lecha Dodi.
Face the front.
Lecha Dodi, Ligerat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Ligerat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekavela.
We may be seated, as we are. Very good. I want to invite Peggy Horwitz to join the Cantor and I on the bima as we prepare to welcome Shabbat with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. I wish to acknowledge that Peggy has been a long-time teacher in our religious school, that the 2.5 years of pandemic under which we have been suffering has kind of screwed up our teaching schedules with Peggy. I am grateful that she has been reliant and available to us as a substitute teacher, and look forward to honoring her with all of our teachers later on in May, the end of this year, so that we might fully acknowledge her long-time contribution to Temple Beth Or. You've been teaching here for
many years.
Too many years to acknowledge. We don't wish to give away a woman's age, and so with that, she's been teaching here for a very long time, and I personally have been very grateful to all of the work that she has done with our students. And if we weren't living through this crazy pandemic, things might be very different for us, Peggy.
As we kindle these Sabbath lights, let us be moved by their light to bring light to those who dwell in darkness. Let us be moved by the warmth and glow of these lights so that we might be a source of compassion to those facing struggles. May these lights inspire us to acts of justice and peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Oh, that would be good. Light the lights might be a good thing. Oh. Usually do that before the blessing.
And here is the English.
Very good.
Here, you hold your microphone.
Okay. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, source of all being, who calls us to holy acts through mitzvot and inspires us to kindle these lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, Peggy, and thank you very much. We continue with the words of our Kiddush. Juice and wine are a symbol of joy and happiness within Judaism. We welcome this Shabbat and the joy that it brings, even though we may have experienced trials and tribulations during the past week. Nevertheless, we acknowledge the moments of joy and happiness that were also interspersed in this past week. And as we come to Shabbat, the end of the week, the crowning act of creation, we find ways to try to reconnect with all of the positive aspects of our lives, those aspects that may have been undone by the challenges that we face on this Shabbat. We hope to wash them away with a symbol of joy, with our juice and with our wine, as we share in our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כיום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים, קיווינו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. חיים. חיים.
L'chaim. Sorry. You're welcome. We were working on Ray's Kiddush Cup. And so it was giving us a little problem, so we had to bring in some expert help to help keep the juice alive in his cup. I also want to acknowledge and welcome our guest with us this evening. Afterwards, please, I would love to greet you. Normally, we would have a reception following our service, but during these days of pandemic, we have curtailed our food service, so please don't rush out. I would love to have the opportunity to meet with you and perhaps help answer any questions you might have. And for those of you viewing on our YouTube channel, we have been playing around with our slides to try to make sure that we might have clearer slides for our viewing audience, so please be sure to let us know how things are going there. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. I invite us to rise as we are able for our Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Lie, la 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 lie. Lie, la 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 lie. Lie, la 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 lie. Lie, la 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 lie. Lie, la 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 lie. Lie, la 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 lie. La 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 lie. Lie. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvona meshanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, B'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimlo chalenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. It is evening. The children slowly dream away the storms of day. It is evening, and stars glow gently in the quiet heavens. Can we understand a dream? Find a net to capture the meaning of a glowing star? What bridge spans the vast space we must cross to reach understanding? How small are we who attempt the journey? And yet, somehow, we learn to find our glory in a brave and endless struggle to comprehend eternal mysteries. We are voyagers, voyagers in an infinite sea, our destination always beyond the horizon. But we are voyagers. We may be seated.
And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. You shall speak of them when you're sitting in your house, when you're walking by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and when you rise up. You shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God,
Hurt people hurt people. That's how pain patterns get passed on generation after generation. Break the chain. Meet anger with sympathy. Meet contempt with compassion. Meet cruelty with kindness. Greet grimaces with smiles. Forgive and forget about finding fault. Love. Love is the weapon of the future. The Israelites who walked into the Reed Sea 1 foot at a time, what were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing toward their open mouths? We continue to walk here, now, 1 foot at a time, on our better days, moving forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. Somehow, I don't go under. The person to the right holds me up, and something I cannot see holds her up. Blessed is the source of help so often unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. Blessed are you, gracious one, for your miracles that greet us every day. Very peppy. There are times when each of us feels lost or alone, adrift and forsaken, unable to reach those next to us or to be reached by them. And there are days and there are nights when existence seems to lack all purpose and our lives seem but brief sparks in an indifferent cosmos. Fear and loneliness enter into the soul. None of us is immune to doubt and to fear. None of us escapes times when all seems dark and all seems senseless. But then, just then, at the ebb tide of the Spirit, the soul cries out and reaches out for companionship.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu makenu l'chaim לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים.
The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to the holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world.
ושמרו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל ושמרו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
They say we are supposed to be in a palace. And so we bow and take certain steps as the prescribed supplications drop from our lips. But what? What really do we know of castles and of royalty? My kitchen faucet constantly leaks. The kids' faces usually need cleaning. If a door opened to a real palace, I would probably forget and carry in a load of groceries. No, the door we stand in front of when we reach the Amidah is the doorway that begins in silence. And when we open it, we step through and arrive not in a palace, but we arrive in our hearts. Mine's not a fancy palace, no jewels, no throne, certainly not fit for any royalty. But in this small chamber, for just a few moments on Shabbat, God and I can roll up our sleeves, put some scotch on the table, sit down together, and finally talk. That's palace enough for me. I invite us to rise as we are able, as we continue with the words of our tefillah, the Amidah portion of our worship service.
שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. La 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We may be seated. To be a Jew means to wake up and to keep your eyes open to the many beautiful, mysterious, and holy things that happen all around us every day. Many of them are like little miracles. When we wake up and see the morning light, when we taste food and grow strong, when we drink that cup of coffee in the morning, when we learn from others and grow wise, when we hug the people that we love and feel warm, when we help those around us and feel good. All these and more are there for us every single day. But first, we must open our eyes to see them. The world is fast losing its soul, but you do not have to lose yours. You don't have to surrender yours. You do not have to live on a mechanical globe. You don't have to tame your deep forest passions. You don't have to suppress your radiant beauty. Live your joy. Go against the grain. Don't be made timid by worried rejection. Let nature's curious wisdom fill you. Let the world's mystical heritage guide you. Paint your canvases and play your tunes. Give your all to the words that are born from you. Your Father and your Father's heaven will never abandon you, but always love the scintilla of your spirit.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lekol hashalom. טסים לעולם, טסים לעולם, טסים לעולם.
We extend our prayers for peace, for shalom, and wholeness to all the peoples of our planet, all the families that comprise all the nations. At the same time as well, we want to include those whose very sense of peace, of shalom, of wholeness has been disturbed, perhaps even shattered by the challenges that they are facing. In a moment, our Cantor will lead us in the prayers of hope and of healing and of shalom, the prayers known as the Mishaberach. And I will, prior to that, invite you to share aloud the name of a loved one who is in need of such prayers, thus we might bring them here into our hearts and into this space at this time. May all who are facing challenges to their health and their well-being be blessed on their journey, a journey that will bring them to a refuah shlema, a return to the wholeness they seek, the shalom and peace that they desire. I invite you to share aloud the name of a loved one who is in need of this prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us bring hope and healing to those who are in need. And let us say, Amen.
Sheberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Mi sheberach imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Misheberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Misheberach imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
In today's crowded civilization, and in this very busy and active society, humans are finding it increasingly difficult to indulge in one of the most priceless luxuries which life can give: occasional total solitude. Being alone does not mean being lonely. It means cutting off the external the superficial and the superfluous, and seeking instead the inner strength which one finds best in solitude. It enriches the spirit and ennobles the individual, and one who denies its refuge is not living life to the fullest. And so during this worship service, just as Shabbat asks us to pause from our doings and to spend time with ourselves, as well as family and friends and community. But even in community, we must take that break. And so we pause for a moment of quiet meditation, a moment of solitude amidst our community, so that we might reflect on all we have heard and all we have experienced as we welcome this Shabbat. We pause for a moment of silent meditation or such other prayer as the heart may prompt.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer.
Such beautiful melodies, Cantor. Such wonderful words. Thank you so much for enriching our Shabbat service with your ruach and your presence. And Dr. Ray, as always, you as well on the clavinova. It is refreshing to hear your beautiful accompaniment. Thank you for lifting up our prayers to the heavens. To David Youngman, Chris Jastrock, Phil Carey, thank you guys for streaming our services and for handling all of our tech, hopefully mostly issue-free this evening. There are times when our Torah presents us with a curious phrase that asks us to delve deeper. And this week's Torah portion is one of those occasions. Last week, for those of you who joined us as we celebrated Rodney Rudd becoming a bar mitzvah, heard about the instructions that God gave Moses for the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, our first sanctuary there in the desert. This week's Torah portion continues with more of the items associated with that Mishkan, including the priestly attire, the clothing that Aaron and his sons were to wear. And God instructs Moses to select, this was indeed a question that Rodney had raised during his drash, his reflection on the Torah portion was, how did the children of Israel complete this task? They must have been divided up into groups. Well, Rodney was absolutely correct, because we learned about some of those groups in this week's Torah portion, with those who were charged with the creation of the robe and the breastplate and all of the items for Aaron and his sons. But God instructs Moses to pick people with chochmei lev, with a wise heart. Chochmei lev, a wise heart. We won't fault our Torah for perhaps missing some of the bodily parts in their appropriate functions. The heart, after all, for our ancients was not a muscle that pumped blood through the body, but rather was the seat of wisdom and passion, was in the heart, not in the brain. We can overlook that for a moment because we understand those who are wise at heart, those who have the ability to discern and to create. Indeed, the chief artisan, the contractor, if you will, of the Mishkan becomes an individual named Betzalel, which means one of two words in Hebrew. Either it means in the shadow of God, which, yes, is the obvious meaning of Betzalel, because artists are able to do that. They're able to put together colors or work with stone and rock or metal and create something that moves us, that speaks to us on a level far beyond our eyes and our brain. They are truly living in the shadow of God to be able to tap into that inspiration. The other definition of Betzalel is the onion of God. And I don't think that's quite what the name had in mind. But Betzalel is going to become the contractor. He's going to become the lead person in bringing in the subs, if you will, to build the Mishkan. But chochmei lev. Our Torah uses the word lev in only a few places. I want to jump outside of the Torah to refer to another individual who asked for something to do with his heart as well. It had been an incredibly difficult political transition, much squabbling going on about who was going to be the next leader. And amidst all of this chaos and turmoil, the newly named King Solomon turns to God and asks for God for only one thing. Solomon could have asked for a more powerful army. Solomon could have asked for great wealth with which to be able to buy off the surrounding kingdoms. Solomon could have asked for an iPad. Not there to be any internet during his day to connect to it. But instead, Solomon asked God for a lev, there's that word again, that heart, a lev shomea, a heart that hears. Of all the things that Solomon asked for, Solomon asked for the tool of empathy with which to lead the children of Israel. I think this is quite telling for the individual who becomes the wisest of all the kings, that it was a lev shomea, a heart that hears, that set King Solomon apart. And in this week's Torah portion, Moses is instructed to find those with a chochmei lev, with a wise heart, to be able to work with the fabrics and the materials, the gemstones, to create the items for Aaron and his sons. A wise heart, a heart that hears. These were the ultimate skills and talents that our ancestors were looking for in order to lead and to create. How very different from our time when we look to our leaders to have, I'm not sure what, brains, brawn, wealth, political savvy, but how those items pale in comparison to a wise heart and to a heart that hears, to empathy. Imagine for a moment how different our world might be if instead of conquest and control, our leaders were empowered with chochmei lev, a wise heart, and a lev shomea, with empathy, to lead the people. Where would our healthcare systems be? Where would our safety nets be in our society to protect those who are the weakest and most vulnerable if our leaders were filled with those attributes instead of the ones we look to? Our rabbis teach us who are mighty, who are strong, those who control their passions. Who are wise, those who learn from others. May we all count ourselves as those with chochmei lev and lev shomea, with wise hearts and with empathy. And may we look for that in the leaders of our communities, our cities, our states, our nation, and indeed this world. For that's what will set our society apart and make our society even greater. When we are able to hear the pain of others, and when we are able to respond with wisdom and with compassion. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We move to the conclusion of our worship service with the words of the Hallelu, the Adoration. The words will be projected on the screen in front of you, and I invite us to rise as we are able for our adoration. Let us now praise the Sovereign of the universe and proclaim the greatness of the Creator who spread out the heavens and established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else. Therefore we bow in awe and thanksgiving before the one who is sovereign over all, the Holy and the Blessed One.
Kadosh Baruch Hu V'nemar v'haya Adonai L'melech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu Yiyeh Adonai echad Bayom Adonai
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, those who live in our hearts and our memories, and in the place we call Olam Haba, the world to come. We call to mind those for whom we are observing the Shloshim, the 30-day period since their death. Norma Lippi, the mother of Ben Lippi, Joel Jaffe, the uncle of our dear Cantor, Ken Jaffe, and Claire Phillips, the mother of Joanne Kotkin. And Ben, Cantor, and Joanne, our hearts go out to you in the immediacy of the death of these family members. To their names, we call to mind those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of their death having occurred during this past week. Hyman Sarkin, Ray Israel, Lily Morantz, Madge Evelyn Tatum Lenegro, Leon Bronstein, Carl Hess, Amelia L. Karen, William Urban, Lawrence Lorber, John Young, Martin Glick, Harry Julius Kravitz, Roy Jastrock, and Bill Schloss. To those names, we link the names of those for whom we are observing the Kaddish period: Edith Chess, Berta Ursus, Ann Phillips, Malcolm Dipperstein, Mark Bornstein, Leah Levine, Vicky Emery, Sheldon Zinberg, Evelyn Levin, Gloria Austin, Dee Dee Ginter, Dorothy Bernard, Molly Shartoff, Erica Cherie Barnes, Kaylee Goldstein, Craig Wilford, Fred Fink, Joyce Ulibari, Ralph Goldstein, and Marvin Asnes. If there's a loved one whom you are remembering, I invite you to share that name at this time. To those that we have named aloud and to those that we keep named in the quiet places of our hearts and memories, we link as well the names and memories of the men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our liberties and our freedom, those who have given their lives for our safety here at home, members of our police, our firefighters, and other first responders, as well as the members of the Israeli Defense Forces who have given their lives for the hope of peace. We add as well the over 900,000 Americans who have died from this COVID-19 pandemic, and most sadly and tragically, just this past week, the 761 Americans who died by gun violence. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing and a source of inspiration to us as we share together the words of our Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, B'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha barichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. It is also with profound and deep sadness that I announce the death of David Kaplan, whose funeral will take place on Monday, 2 o'clock at Forest Lawn Cemetery. He is survived by his wife, Heather, stepson, Miguel, and daughters, Gabby and Lily. And our hearts go out to the family, the Kaplan family, in the immediacy of this devastating death. Judaism teaches us we drink from the cup of joy and we drink from the cup of sorrow, and sometimes we do that at the same time. Life is full of complexities, and we do not always have the luxury to select one channel over another. But instead, we are full partners with God in the process of creation, and so we have to take all that life dishes out to us. The blessing and the curse have been set before us. And so we find ways to share our burden with the curses and to magnify our joy with the blessings. We conclude our service with the singing of an appropriate word. At various times, there are often blessings buried even in the midst of great tragedies. Let us find ways to uncover those diamonds in the rough as we conclude with the singing of Hallelu and Hallelujah, an opportunity for all of us to acknowledge our opportunity to express gratitude to each other and to our Creator. If you are comfortable with holding the hand of someone next to you or putting the arms around the shoulder of someone next to you, please feel free to do so as we conclude our service with Hallelu and Hallelujah.
Hallelu, 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 kol hanshama, tehaleya, hallelu, hallelu, hallelujah. Shama, de Hallelujah, 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 Kol Hanshama.
From all of us here at Temple Beth Or and La Mirada, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. May you have a safe and healthy weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Peggy, without everybody here,